fixed offshore wind turbines or nuclear territory waters, dynamic analysis of towers under wind and ocean.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Souvik Prasad, final year undergraduate student from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT Kharagpur, India. My topic is monopile depth optimizing of fixed offshore wind turbines of Indian territorial waters, dynamic analysis of towers under wind and ocean loads. This is based on the work done under the guidance of Prof. M. These are the contents that I will be presenting today. First, I will start with introduction, which is followed by motivation and objective. I will formulate the problem and I will discuss the loads. Then I will discuss the analysis methodology, which is followed by the result section. Then I will end my presentation with some important design consideration points and summary. We all know renewable energy is very important in today's world, and wind energy constitutes of about 5% of the total renewable energy around the world. Horizontal axis wind turbines will be commercially viable devices for wind energy capture. Now let us look at the installed power capacity of our country. We have a total installed power capacity of around 412 gigawatts, out of which 10% comes from wind energy, which is about 42 gigawatts. Now looking at the potential numbers for our wind energy capture for both onshore and offshore in our country, we clearly are in very good state to capture wind energies. Now, moving on to the offshore wind turbines. Offshore wind turbines are clearly more advantageous than onshore wind turbines. First of all, they experience higher wind speed as compared to onshore region. Second, they produces higher quality power capture because of less turbulence of air on offshore region. Third, wind turbines are known for producing unwanted noises. So, for offshore wind turbines, avoid this problem since they are away from human settlements. Now, looking at our country, we have a total coastline of around 7,500 kilometers and have a 12 nautical miles of territorial waters, which makes it a great potential for capturing offshore winds as well. Now, moving on to the aim and objective of this project, the aim is to structurally analyze the monopile tower of an offshore wind on Indian territorial waters, considering all kinds of loads over offshore region using analytical and semi-analytical approaches. The objective is to provide a simple methodology for calculating the structural design consideration, which can be useful for making cost estimates and feasibility decisions at the very initial stages of installation of offshore turbines. We have selected the region of Gulf of Kutch, which is north of Jamnagar city in Gujarat. We are making the wind turbine with a design wind speed of around 9 meters per second. We have taken the water depth of around 40 meters and a current speed of around 0.8 meters per second. We are structurally analyzing the tower under a maximum wind speed of around 75 meters per second. Now let us formulate the problem. We are designing the wind turbine with a rated power of around 1 megawatts, which gives us a length of blade of around 40 meters, and the drive height is assumed to be double the length of 40 meters. We are initially starting with an assumed monopile depth of 25 meters. The monopile depth obviously depends on soil characteristics and the external loads. The tower may fail due to uprooting of the tower when the soil is too soft, and due to flexural failure when the yield stress is exceeded, or due to fatigue failure. Now moving on to the analysis model, the tower is assumed to be a hollow cantilever beam with linearly tapered cross-sectional diameter. The soil is assumed to be a combination of parallel linear translation springs. The mass of the nacelle is calculated from an empirical relationship which is taken from a literature review. Upon calculating the ratio of effective diameter to length, we have found it to be less than 1 by 20 the total length of the tower. Hence, we can assume the tower to be a Euler-Bernoulli beam. Now moving on to the loads, first we have extreme wind loads and current loads. Then we have dynamic loads. In dynamic loads, we have wind turbulence loads. Wind turbulence load depends on the wind turbulence intensity, which is very less on offshore region as stated earlier. Then moving on to gush loading. In gush loading also we can see that it depends on gush factor. The gush factor in turn depends on the turbulent intensity, which is very less on as compared to onshore region. Hence, we can ignore the effect of these two loads. Then moving on to the vortex shedding loads. For alternate vortex shedding, the Reynolds number should be in the range of 10 to the power 4 to 10 to the power 6. On calculating the Reynolds number for both current flow and wind flow, we have found that this is outside the range. Hence, we can also ignore the effect of vortex shedding loads. Now moving on to the harsh wave loads, the energy of the wave is modeled using Pearson-Moscovitch spectrum. And on plotting the Pearson-Moscovitch spectrum, we have found a peak frequency of around 0.154 Hz. From the dispersion relationship, we have got the wavelength of around 66 meters. The significant wave height is assumed to be 2.5 meters, which is taken from the Beaufort scale, since our design speed is around 9 meters per second. Now we are in a position to formulate the wave loads using the Fruit-Killough of forces, where I have already discussed all the parameters used. Now moving on to the analysis methodology. First I will discuss the static analysis. This is the governing differential equation for static analysis, where the right hand side constitutes the force, which comprises of ocean current loads, extreme winds and the soil reaction forces. The wind load is modeled as a point load at the tip of the nacelle. The current load is modeled in such a way that it linearly increases with submerged height, and the stiffness of the soil is modeled by a piecewise function where we have a constant stiffness in the embedded length. This is the governing differential equation and it is solved using a MATLAB solver. Now moving on to the vibration analysis. First we have free vibration analysis. This is the governing differential equation for free vibration, where the first three terms denotes the inertia of the structure and the second three terms denotes the stiffness of the structure. The first term is due to the self mass of the structure, the second is due to the nacelle tip mass, and the third is due to the fluid inertia. This term is due to the compressive stress due to the nacelle mass. This term is due to the self stiffness of the structure, and these are the reaction forces coming from the soil. The transverse displacement of the tower is assumed to be a summation of product of mode shift and its corresponding principal coordinate. According to, we have used Rayleigh-Ritz formulation, according to which the mode shift is defined as a summation, weighted summation of admissible function. In this case, the admissible function is assumed to be the closed form solution of a free vibration of cantilever beams. Now we have used Rayleigh-Ritz method to find the frequencies of free vibration. Rayleigh-Ritz method is an energy-based method which works on the principle of minimizing the natural frequencies. Upon calculating, we have found this matrix, and on equating the determinant of this matrix to 0, we will get the natural frequencies of the tower, and on substituting back the natural frequencies in this matrix, we will get its corresponding coefficient, which will help us to formulate the mode shapes, corresponding mode shapes of the non-uniform tower. Now moving on to the dynamic response, we have the same differential equation, but we have the external forcing, which is modeled using Fruit-Killough force. The Fruit-Killough force decreases exponentially with the submerged height of the tower, and here also we have modeled the transverse displacement as a summation of product of mode shift and its principal coordinate. We have solved the dynamic response using mode summation method. In mode summation method, the governing differential equation is transformed into modal differential equation like this, where the first three terms similarly represents the inertia terms and the second three terms similarly expresses the stiffness term. The generalized force is calculated by this formula, where we have multiplied the mode shape with the force, and we have integrated it over the submerged length only. We can now calculate the principal coordinates by taking the inverse of this matrix. Now let us move to the results. First we have quasi-static analysis, then we have free vibration analysis, and then we have dynamic response. Now looking at the results of the quasi-static response, we have observed a tip displacement of around 83 centimeters, which is under extreme load, that is 75 meters per second of wind speed, and a current load of around 0.8 meters per second. We have observed a maximum bending stress of around 118 megapascal, which is observed at the mud line, and we have observed a maximum shear stress of around 56 megapascal, which is observed just below the mud line. In both the cases, we are working at very good safety factors. Now, moving on to the results for free vibration. First, I have presented a convergence study on the variation of natural frequencies with respect to the number of admissible functions taken. We can clearly see that when we are taking the number of admissible functions to be 6, the fourth natural frequency converges. Hence, for further studies, I have assumed only 5 admissible functions, and here I have presented the 4 mode shapes of the free vibration of the non-uniform beam. You can clearly see the effect of stiff soil since the displacement in this embedded region is very less as compared to other parts of the soil. Now moving on to the parametric study of the variation of natural frequency. On increasing the water depth, the total inertia of the structure increases and hence the natural frequency decreases, as you can see in this trend. But here, when we are increasing the monopile depth, at low monopile depths, we can see that the natural frequency decreases. This is due to the fact that the addition of mass is dominant here, but at higher monopile depths, we can see that the frequency increases. This is due to the addition of stiff springs, which are modeled as soil. Now, on increasing the soil stiffness, the natural frequency increases, which is pretty much expected. Now, these are the results for the mode summation method. Here, one interesting thing to note is that the second generalized force is highest in magnitude. This is due to the fact that the integration is happening only over the submerged length and not on the total tower length. Now, these are the principal coordinates. Here, as expected, the first principal coordinate is highest in magnitude. Now, these are the plots for displacement and dynamic bending stress and shear stress with respect to space and time. Here also we can clearly see the effect of the stiff soil since the displacement is very less in this region. Also, the stresses are quite high in this region as compared to other parts of the soil. Now, here I have plotted the maximum displacement, maximum shear stress and maximum bending stress as a function of length of the tower. Here also we can see that we are working at very good safety factors in case of fatigue failure. This is pretty much expected since this tower requires huge investments of money and hence they are expected to run for longer periods of time. Now moving on to the important design consideration points. The first thing we observed is that the largest bending stress are caused by extreme wind loads. Also in parametric study, we have observed that the change in monopile depth does not affect the natural frequencies of the tower much. Also, we have observed that the dynamic responses are pretty less as compared to the extreme wind loads. According to safety factors, the tower is designed stiff enough to withstand all the external loads, both dynamic and static loads. Also, the tower is designed in such a way that it reduces the resonance with the VIB and also with 1P and 3P frequencies of the turbine. Also, here from quasi-static analysis, we get the desired properties of the soil which are required to prevent uprooting of the tower, as we can see here. Now, these are the summary points. First, this represents a practical case study of the sizing of monopile towers, where we have considered all kinds of loads that act on offshore turbines. Generally, in other literature reviews, we have found that they have considered only one type of load and done the analysis. But here, we have considered all the loads and have compared the effects of all the loads as well. We have found that the extreme wind loads that causes the maximum stresses. We have also observed that the Rayleigh-Ritz method can give quick estimates of the natural frequencies of the tower. Also, this whole analytical method gives a very good initial estimate of the monopile depth of the tower, which can be calculated without using extensive finite element analysis. These numbers can be very helpful in making early project decisions and cost estimates. These are the references that I have used for this project. Thank you for your attention.